Do you guys remember back in high school where there would just be this random police officer walking around? Well, my high school also had a resource officer, and he seemed pretty chill, but I never really got to know him. Back then, we were like, what, 15? So my friend had the amazing idea to go up to him and ask him if he could show us his gun. Obviously, we didn't get to see it, but he did show us his flashlight. School resource officers, or SROs, are police officers who are assigned to high schools to reduce youth criminal involvement by means of deterrence. Uniformed officers work closely with middle and high school students to provide intervention, enforcement, and education. Basically, the main goal is to expose youth to police in a non-confrontational way in hopes that youth see their resource officers as a positive adult role model. SRO programs can vary widely depending on the region or the police department. Public Safety Canada defines the role of a school resource officer as providing support to the school community as a whole, which includes students, parents, school staff, and administrators. Some police departments don't actually station their officers within schools themselves, while some use a more hands-on approach to community policing. But what if I tell you that the SRO program is low-key a scam? There's minimal evidence to suggest that the program is actually effective. Which brings me to this infographic. Let's take a look. Should police officers belong in school spaces? A news article from the Minnesota Reformer in 2023 found that in a hypothetical school of 1,000 students, hiring a school resource officer did reduce crime by about 30%, led to a 90% increase in severe disciplinary actions. That means more suspensions, expulsions, and arrests. And though more students are facing the consequences of their bad behavior, instead of dealing with this through an educational means, it just means that more students are being exposed to the system. These students are being criminalized for something that's within normal teenage behavior. So actions such as boundary testing and defiance, although they're disruptive, are considered in the scope of normal behavior for adolescents as they start to develop a sense of autonomy. Exposure to the system at a young age has been known to increase the likelihood of future involvement as an adult. Youth are labeled as an offender and begin to internalize that notion. Did you also know that youth who are expelled have a significantly lower chance of graduating than their peers? These harsh academic punishments can alter the trajectory of a young person's life. A study done by James and McCallion in 2013 states that students in schools with SROs were more likely than students without SROs to be arrested for disorderly conduct. Again, same idea of student misbehavior being criminalized. A comprehensive research article by Samuels-Wortley in 2023 examines the role of SROs. The author highlighted several studies, one of which examined the effectiveness of SROs in deterring crime. The studies that they examined consistently show that schools with SROs report more crime than schools without SROs. The same author, Samuels-Wortley, also reviewed the Vancouver School Board School Liaison Officer Program. So that's just the SRO program for Vancouver. The study implemented one-on-one interviews with students who attended the school region. There were two sections that were of note in this article. One, the fact that most students didn't really know what an SRO was or what they did, and two, the effect that they had on students. The first one being that 41% of student respondents were not familiar with the SRO program. The fact that these children didn't know who their SROs were or what they did probably meant that the officers weren't interacting with the school enough, which defeats the whole purpose of inserting them in the school in the first place. The second point was the fact that students also expressed their concerns over their safety and the stigmatization of having an SRO assigned to their school. One student notes that seeing an armed police officer at their school gives off the message that students like them were not welcome. Instead of these officers representing protection or community involvement, they more so represented surveillance and control. This is especially true for Indigenous students, as their past role was as residential school enforcers. Both of these articles are a clear example of how the presence of an SRO actually has a negative effect on the community and goes directly against the purpose of what the program is supposed to be. Instead of providing support to the community, SROs act as a barrier to connection. Both articles report schools with SROs experiencing more arrests and a higher reporting of minor non-criminal incidents. I also think it's worth mentioning that SROs don't really have the full authority to issue suspensions or expulsions. I think somebody mentioned that under my discussion post, and they're right. It's more so the fact that administrators who do have the authority to issue suspensions defer to SROs for their assessment of danger. Just the mere presence of an SRO could probably shift the way you view these situations, and that itself would lead to a harsher punishment. So, what can we do to fix this? One idea I had was the removal of police uniforms or to replace SROs with youth justice coordinators. Having officers ditch their uniforms can hopefully create a more welcoming presence for minority students. The idea behind it is because the police officers are dressed for work that the students feel like they're being targeted or that they're in danger. They don't necessarily have to show up in just plain clothes. They could probably wear a more casual version of their uniform, like a polo shirt and some slacks. By removing the police uniforms, it'll hopefully create a more engaging experience for the youth. The second option would be to replace SROs altogether with youth justice coordinators. Youth justice coordinators are highly knowledgeable about youth law, and this way you could still promote the goals of youth crime prevention without having that barrier with the uniform and everything. So the policy that we're talking about is the Ontario Bill 33, Supporting Children and Students Act. So basically, the act says that you should implement a school resource officer program wherever available, and is very vague. So my main recommendation was to either change the actual officers into youth justice coordinators. Um, so in the bill, it would read, implement school youth justice coordinator programs wherever available. The second one would be to change the dress code of the SROs if youth justice coordinators are not available. But I'm not sure if it would be appropriate to put the dress code changes in the actual bill itself, uh, because I was thinking there would be a more specific document that it would go under. So those would be the changes I would recommend. Thank you for watching my video.